Good afternoon. How are you going? Can you hear me okay? You can?
And me? Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
It's going to be fun already. So this is the graveyard slot, but this is the best till last, right? Thank you for staying. I'm Monty Munford. That's an agency that I founded some years ago. I've worked with about 50 companies to raise money and exit to a value of 1.8 billion. Been quite lucky. I'm a writer for The Economist. I have a prop tech fund startup. This is a prop tech VC called Home Truth. I write for The Economist and the BBC, and I do lots of things. My job here is not to talk about myself, just to give it a little bit of authority, and is it to hand it over to these three people, and they're going to be amazing. And we will have some Q&A at the end, because I hope that there'll be interaction between us, and you'll enjoy yourself, and you'll have something to take away. So Abbas, tell us about yourself.
Thanks very much, Monty. Hi, everyone. I'm Abbas Kazmi. I am a venture capital investor and co-founding partner at BlackWood Ventures and SABAH.fund. I invest across Europe and the US through BlackWood and across MENA, Central Asia, Turkey through SABAH.fund. Prior to that, used to work at BlackRock and a former founder, 2 exits before that.
Falls 30 under 30 once upon a time, is that right?
Yes.
Not so long ago.
Not too long ago.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you very much. Tala.
Yeah, we know all too well about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Tala Jabri. I'm an early stage investor, primarily in the Middle East, but also globally and other emerging markets. I also run my own advisory firm where I advise tier 1 VCs like Andreessen Horowitz. I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you, Tala. Maurice, slightly strange. Are you really the chair, professor and head of the Arts and Architecture Intelligent Lab at Nanjing University? I don't believe you are you?
That's my ambition.
Is it?
That's my ambition, yes.
Who
so
are
they put
you?
my ambition in.
Where did they get that? That's mad.
Not a clue. Not a clue.
I think it's AI generated.
Absolutely. 4 years ago.
I look like somebody who could come from there. True.
Maurice, tell us who you really are.
Yes, Maurice Backand Vervee. I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm a VC turned entrepreneur turned angel, then turned LP, and a couple of years ago decided to become a GP. So set up Curiosity VC based in the Netherlands, focused on the Benelux, Nordics, Baltics, AI focus. Is that deep tech? I don't know. But my connection with deep tech is that I've invested in several funds in Europe that have a deep tech focus. And they're inspiring me and helping me to understand a bit what deep tech is.
Have you found any companies here over the last couple of days? What have you felt about the conference for the companies that you might invest in and add to your portfolio?
I've spoken to some interesting ones, but yeah, you always need to be careful with that because otherwise your negotiations are a bit worse. But no, there are some smart people here, and for me it's important to find passionate people that are finding something that they really would like to get to another level.
Absolutely.
And specifically with deep tech, that's important because it takes a long time.
Yes. How many in the audience are startups themselves looking for money?
Oh.
Weird.
One?
Good. This is your lucky
Two?
day,
Okay.
bro. 2, 3, 4.
It's growing.
They're available afterwards. So basically, what we want to do is to give you something to take away with you. So Abbas, I would start with a pretty vanilla question. How do your investment priorities kind of differ across territories, and especially MENA?
Yeah, so when we look at Western markets, Europe, US, etc., typically the businesses being built are trying to be global businesses that have the potential to solve problems, global problems, scale across international markets. The trend more in MENA is about creating, generally, it's about creating more local winners, regional winners that can scale across the region, sometimes addressing gaps that might not exist in the West, but do exist regionally. So more about cross-border expansion, helping these startups, particularly from smaller countries, expand into, it's a large region, but made up of smaller countries, so helping them expand into larger geographies, and then eventually being able to be in a position where they can enter the Western markets when they're ready, etc. The other thing is really helping them with the exits as well. In MENA, it's more of an M&A market compared to the West, where there's more mature capital markets. So thinking about potential acquirers early on when you make investment decisions, who could be a potential exit route for this startup, and then helping connect them with those potential acquirers.
And where do you see the state of the MENA against Asia and Europe and North America? Where do you think they stand?
It's an incredibly exciting market. If you look at the global VC trend right now, Q3 this year was the worst in 7 years by overall volume. So there's a correction happening in the market. Yeah. There's a reset taking place, which is healthy. But if you look at the stats, MENA has been incredibly resilient. So over $2 billion have been invested into MENA startups over the last 9 months, last 10, 11 months now, Q3 basically. And that's only down 13% year on year, but compared to 30% globally reduction compared to year on year. So there's a lot of potential. A lot of it's being driven by government incentives and priorities, flagship mega projects from governments like Saudi Arabia, Vision 2030, etc. So it's a strategic priority for these markets, and rapidly digitizing economies, young populations, high mobile phone and internet penetration. So all the raw materials and ingredients here, international talent, very diverse market, particularly in the UAE. So there's the raw materials here, and it's just about bringing more capital into the market and having more success stories to inspire startups.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you. Tala, you have a pretty decent position in MENA, that you are from Saudi Arabia, born in Jeddah, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
And now you're almost a Jubian? Was it Jubanese? I don't know. But you consider yourself kind of almost from Dubai now. Is that, you've been here 15 years or something?
That's right.
So what would you say at the moment when it comes to MENA, or people vying for control? Where does Saudi Arabia and UAE sit at the moment? Is there a healthy rivalry? Is there certain sectors where some are standing out? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
An overview, basically.
So, I think the region is still relatively small, right? It's segregated markets. We have 300 million people. And so, I think we're too small to have a rivalry. We're still pushing, the innovation agenda across different countries. Of course, when you compare the UAE and Saudi Arabia, the UAE was first to really have an entrepreneurial sort of landscape and to really think about that and set the regulatory environment for that. Even before there was a real venture capital ecosystem, we had free zones in the UAE, whereas in Saudi Arabia, right, everything started to change after Vision 2030. So they are on slightly different trajectories. But when you look at market size and market potential, of course, there's no company that is a startup that doesn't want to enter the Saudi market, whether you're based in Egypt or the UAE or other markets of MENA. I do think that the UAE has a very unique advantage, not just relative to the region, but relative to the rest of the world, in that it is a very open place. It is one of the most diverse places on earth. And what happens when you have sort of a mindset, a tolerant mindset, where you welcome talent and you welcome people from all over the world and you create an enabling environment for ideas, innovation's going to spur. Dubai itself was, if you think about it, a startup, right? They set very aggressive ambitions, and now they, are leaders in different categories, especially when you think about tourism and trade flows. They've made themselves relevant to the rest of the world. And so I think that in order to have an effective ecosystem, that the mindset needs to be there, not just the demand, the money spent. And so I think that the UAE does this very uniquely. I think Saudi Arabia is on its way there. The advantage they also have is that, they've attracted some of the best, fund managers who have, very interesting portfolio companies and really interesting founders. Like it says, I used to work at Softbank, and so, when I was there, invested in a lot of interesting founders. And by virtue of that, of having that relationship, putting $45 billion into Softbank, that gave Saudi Arabia access to some of that talent. And so in those ways, Saudi may be able to leapfrog, other innovation ecosystems.
Yeah, okay, and I get that. I spent a lot of time here, like a decade ago, 10 years ago, talking to startups and speaking about the notion of failure. You know, everyone wants to fail. You know, everyone seems to want to fail. You know, so they can win. It's like, well, not win at the beginning, but I got the impression from I don't know if it's the word MENA or MENA or Arab culture, that notion of failing was not really looked upon well by the parents of startups, you know, of founders. You know, it's like, and I found that very interesting that, you know, that this innovation could be stopped because of, you know, pressure of the society, that we don't want to know if you're a failure. You know, do you think that still exists, or did I get it wrong?
Yeah, I feel that sort of, those sentiments, you know, carry, you know, they might be felt more strongly in certain markets relative to others. It's still definitely something that I think, you know, in this region where we do need a mindset shift. But I think really the only market personally that I've experienced that is not afraid of failure is really Silicon Valley. You know, failing is seen as a badge of honor. I don't think I've seen that level of, you know, sort of tenacity in any other market around the world. The other thing is, I do feel that the younger generation, and we do have, you know, very young populations in this part of the world. Just by way of example, you know, roughly 75% of Saudis are under the age of 35.
Wow.
And so they've grown up in a different time, and so they are way more risk-taking than their parents ever were. The other thing I'll say that's unique about our markets is the governments, the regulators, want to see you win.
Yeah.
They want to see you win. And so there is that almost safety net for entrepreneurs to take that leap, and where their parents won't, you know, point the finger at them and say, you know, why didn't you just take a traditional investment banking job?
Yeah. No, interested. All right, no, I'm really interested. Maurice, now that we've worked out who you are, curiosity is a great idea for a fund. You must have had some failures in your time. I mean, you've done exits. Just tell us a bit more about your kind of journey to getting here, and basically your authority for being here. Why are you here?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're still figuring it out.
Absolutely.
Now, my journey is that I never had the ambition to become part of the VC fund. So back in the 90s, I did an assignment for a portfolio company of a VC firm in the Netherlands. And they poached me on becoming an analyst over there. And that's where I learned a bit the trick on what is investing and how does it work. They, back in the days, were investing in deep tech when it wasn't called deep tech. So injection molding technologies, low pressure steam machines, cool stuff. But what I also noticed is that I'm a bit too impatient to be part of that journey of at least 5 to 10 years before there is a product, before you have your distribution. And I know the headaches that all these people have here with hardware developments. So at one point I resigned, quit my job, because I saw the internet hype coming up and going down. But I also saw that there were some companies still surviving and that there were many opportunities there. And it was way easier to set something up because you needed an idea, you needed a technical person to build something. And next to that, you had to have a bit of commercial knowledge and sense. So that's when I set up some companies, always together with you would now call it CTO, a tech guy, I called it back then. So to support me, and I support him on the product development of itself. That went in many cases not that well, but that makes you humble and that makes you reflect on what were the lessons learned. And I think it's really good, and indeed failure is important. And I think that indeed Silicon Valley is a different breed, or the US, it's different than compared to even also the Netherlands, where we are people that have been exploring the world early on. But still, if you now look at today, when I decided to quit my job, my father went berserk. He said, "Are you crazy? You have a good job. Why are you giving up this safety net?" But for me, it was something I had to do. I had to get this kind of fire in me to test it out.
Yes.
And it worked out quite nicely. Of course, the time that I've put into angel investing was a bit more than what I did at one point in being an entrepreneur. But it also learned me the trick a bit more on investing.
Taught me, not learned me. Taught me. Some English lessons. Everyone gets it wrong.
Oh, sorry.
Taught me, just for the record.
For the record, did we have this on tape? I will listen.
It's always good. I don't speak Dutch. Do you know what I mean?
No worries.
I'm quite intrigued. Your first fund set up 2 years ago, early
3 years ago, yeah.
3 years ago, you raised 32 million.
Yes.
It's highly impressive. Bravo. But you operate in Benelux and the Nordic regions, which are kind of strange territories. It's almost like an Emirates of Europe.
You could look at it like that.
Yeah, thanks. Why did you choose to do like that? Was that just happenstance? That's just what happened?
It happened for certain reasons. My co-founder of the fund used to work for a corporate VC based in Finland. So he has a strong network in Scandinavia and therefore has also access to good deal flow. I've been coming to the Baltics for many years, for more than 10 years, did investments in the region. And therefore I was able to build a network over there because it's all about getting access to talent. And when we were talking about, okay, what do we want to do first? So which industries do we think we understand? Which geos do we have relevant networks in? Then we came up with these geos. And the thing is, they're all small economies, as you say. It could be compared a bit with this region. So from day one, you need to think internationally. And that's what I like about the people over there, the founders over there, have this international mindset from day one.
Absolutely. Well, it was segues perfectly, Abbas, to my next question. Bearing in mind there's only 4 people here that really want to know the answer because they're startups. What are the common mistakes that you notice when startups are trying to raise international funding, not local funding?
So the biggest mistake is speaking to the wrong people. A lot of the time, I don't know how I've ended up on all these mailing lists, but I do get weird and wonderful pitches from all corners of the planet. A lot of the time, founders make the mistake of just thinking, oh, VC, they must have money, that must be for me, etc. Actually target, do some research into who you're speaking to, look at their portfolio, look at their focuses, their stages, geographies, all of that, and actually see whether they actually have the mandate to invest in you before wasting your time sending them pitches.
Doesn't everyone do that? They must.
You'd be surprised.
You're kidding me.
You'd be surprised. Even here at today's event, at the conference, etc., you'll see some founders going up to the wrong investors or people who just say, "Sorry, like great company, but I don't have the mandate to invest in you," type thing. So doing your research into who you're speaking to.
So lazy.
It is, and often the biggest mistakes are the most simple ones. So it's easy to address with just a bit of research and work. The second thing is as well is, in terms of your pitch and your storytelling, often the best founders are the ones who are pros at this, who make it very easy to understand your business very quickly, give you all the materials you need to understand it. Don't make your investor try and look around and try and figure out what your business model is, how you're building it, why is this interesting for me. Make it very clear and easy for them to find it. So that comes down to your data room, your pitch deck, structuring it, all of that. And then the third thing is really making sure you tell not just a story, but have a real genuine reason for raising from a particular country or region. So traditionally, people have had this misconception about MENA as a market. It's kind of a big bag of gold sitting there waiting for people from the West to come in, take their money, and then go back to their home countries. It might have been like that 10 years ago. It's changed. Now, if you want to raise money from the region, you have to have substance and operations in the region and plans to actually add value to the region. So make sure you have a convincing story and actual plans for why you want to raise from this region, why you want to enter the region, etc. And it applies vice versa with any investor. If you want to enter the US, it's the same thing. Why the US market? What's the competition like? Also understanding the state of the market, the local competitors, etc., the gaps, the demographics, all of that. So those are 3 key areas, I'd say, that founders often mess up when it comes to raising internationally.
So if they pass your test, they're filtered, what do they do next to kind of impress you or take it to the next stage? What do you look for after that? Probably the most important thing.
Sure. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of factors investors look at, everything from market size to the problem that they're addressing, the solution, the team, etc. But ultimately, when it comes at the earliest stages, it really comes down to the judgment. Do I believe that the people in front of me are going to deliver what they claim they can deliver? And looking at the expertise, so things like founder market fit, not just product market fit. Do they have something special about them, or a particular knowledge that makes them suitable to set up this type of business,
And they
etc.
execute. Is that
Yes,
right?
execution ability, traction, etc. always matters, but at the earliest stages, you're really looking at the people and make a judgment on them.
Okay, the talent. All right, interesting. Tala, over to you. An obvious question, being the only female on the panel.
I wasn't supposed to be, actually. I was not supposed to be the only token female.
Oh, Eva was supposed to be.
Eva was supposed to
So
be
now
here.
but now you're going to.
But now I am.
You're going to get the female question. I think a lot of people think about.
Happy to volunteer to answer the female question if you need.
Absolutely. And Maurice as well. I taught him. Absolutely.
2024.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How have things changed in the last decade? I mean, in the last 15 years since you came across the water to Dubai, I'd imagine the perception that we had of MENA at that time was not particularly female friendly. I certainly think that's changed on a personal basis. What have you seen in those years for the audience's takeaway?
Yeah, I think maybe just from like a startup and investor, like female base type of question. I mean, I think when I started my career in Dubai, I was in investment banking, and honestly, I never really thought about it. Never really thought about being a woman. I did notice that, more often than not, I'm the only woman in the room, but I didn't really make it a thing. I didn't really think about whether that advantaged me or disadvantaged me, because, when you're starting out your career, or even today in the activities that we do, we want to do just the best job possible. Obviously, though, when I was working in Saudi, and I have been working in Saudi in and out for the last 15 years, a lot structurally has changed, and I'm so happy to see so many women participating in the workforce. So when I started my career, about 11%, there was an 11% workforce participation rate of women in Saudi Arabia. Today, it's in excess of 35%. And so that's a real achievement, and that's a result of, all the work that went into executing on Vision 2030. Yeah. I think, I often get asked the question about, investing in female founders, and, whether there are lots of female investors. And I think, honestly speaking, we've been very lucky in MENA to have so many female investors that it's not really even a thing anymore, at least not to me. It doesn't surprise me to see women in the room. It would surprise me if I didn't see women in the room, to be honest. And I think proportionally in MENA, we actually have a higher number of female investors relative to male investors than in the US. Why that's happened, I don't know, but it just is the case. I think female founders continue to be underfunded.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that trend is necessarily, in terms of females getting funded, has gone up. But, as an investor, we want to invest in the best talent. You don't want to take gender into consideration necessarily. You want to invest in the best founders. And I think one of the things that I look for in founders is, really having a chip on your back and really wanting to prove people wrong. And I think that you can argue in some ways.
So I hate to be a really pedantic English guy. Chip on your shoulder, not a chip on your back.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm a writer.
I love that we're getting
Lessons
in
learned.
English.
Can't help it.
I love it when people call me out, actually, because I don't want to make the same mistake again.
But you won't, will you, right?
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Are you what?
I'm going to ask you again after the session.
Good. So I'm a writer. I can't help it. but I think.
But the point is, when what was it? Chip on your shoulder.
Chip on your shoulder.
You're going to work harder because you want to prove people wrong. And so if you feel like your agenda is to prove all the men in the room wrong because you're a woman, that's a huge advantage. I like that.
Absolutely. I mean, but we got some. I think Abbas, you seem to you can answer questions about women. I think there's some shameful numbers in the UK. There's only like 8% of female funders get founding. I mean,
Less than 1%.
Is it
8% is a huge overestimate of it's less than 1%.
Tell us those truthful facts now. Less than 1%.
1% of female-led companies
in the world or in the UK.
In the UK and US, in the Western markets, raise venture capital funding compared to male counterparts.
That's insane. That's got to change. But maybe MENA, that piggyback on that rubbish data, it could be almost a forefront for female founders. And may that continue. I want the world to be run by women. Look at the state of it. Do you know what I mean? VC funding seems to have gone through a slump over the last couple of years. There's a lot of friends that I have, that are in startups. It was quite easy in a way to get money. Do you agree with that, Maurice? Do you think it's harder? I mean, you raised. How easy was it to raise 32 mil for your fund? Was that easy?
No, it wasn't that easy. No, although I have a network in the market, having investing along with many LPs throughout the years, or angels that also became LPs in funds. But still, you had to do a lot of storytelling and explain who you are, what your purpose is, and why you're different than the others. Because also, although you have a good track record as an entrepreneur or as a angel, that doesn't make you therefore a great GP. So that's where I got a lot of questions on. Like, okay, why are you now a great GP? And why do you think you can run a successful VC fund? But true, the vintages of 2021, 22, they have a headache now.
Yeah.
And that is influencing the market, but that's only one part of it. But it's also happening in the last few years that the exit potential has slowed down tremendously.
Absolutely, yeah.
So if you want to have an ecosystem that recycles money, then you also need exits via private equity or via the corporates that are buying these companies that were venture-backed. And that isn't something that will be resolved in a few months. We need a bit more time for that. So although maybe the economy in half a year heats up again, it takes long.
So you think the state of play at the moment, where it is difficult to get funding, that's going to stay the same? Or do you see any... I mean, AI must have booted things up a bit, right?
A bit. But
I said I wasn't going to say AI the whole conference, and I've just said it. I'm so sorry.
If it is the first time, it's okay. You're excused. Yeah.
My English is bad.
I've noticed. No, the thing is that, of course, there are certain trends that are attracting money, but still, overall, there are some challenges there. I don't have all the numbers available, like you have with the percentages. Maybe you have some data that you can share. But when I talk to other investors, earlier stage, later stage, that's what I hear. The sentiment is not that positive, and you can change the sentiment, but the effect will take 6 to 12 to 24 months.
Absolutely. Abbas, you agree with that kind of synopsis, or that?
Yes, I think you need to look at it by stage as well. So when it comes to the AI side of things, there's a huge amount of funding going in later stage companies. The market's overheating. That's improving now compared to a few months ago, where there's kind of suddenly the cycle for a startup being created to raising funding reduced to the space of a few months, and some of the size of these rounds were pretty crazy. So that's improving now, but if you look at other sectors that are overheating as well, ironically, climate tech.
Absolutely.
There were over 400 new climate tech VCs raised in the last 18 months alone, and there's a huge amount of hot money in that space. A few years ago was the crypto blockchain boom. So essentially, if you're a trend chasing startup, you're a climate tech on the blockchain with AI features. And then you can try and pitch every investor you want.
I think Bitcoin's about to break 100K today. Yep. Madness. Bear in mind the climate connection. You've just come back from Baku, COP29.
Yep.
And so tell us a bit about the SABAH.fund. I think that's Azeri-based.
Yes. So
what did you see? What did you see there in Baku?
Yep. So it's the first fund between MENA, Central Asia, Caucasus, Turkey. We invest across the regions. It's a cross-border approach. So we help startups from the more emerging parts of that region expand into MENA, and then help MENA companies expand into those markets, vice versa. And we see it as basically the kind of last untapped part of Asia. There's a lot of technical talent there. There's a valuation arbitrage play there where valuations are much lower, and then you bring them here. If you look at valuations in MENA over the last 5 years, the mean and median valuations at seed level have quadrupled, more than quadrupled since 2019.
Wow.
And in some cases, in certain sectors, you're getting valuations higher than the US in places like Saudi. So there is an arbitrage there. But I see it as an interesting opportunity to leverage the expertise of a more mature, fast-maturing market that you have in MENA to help a very appealing market from a demographic point of view, young talent, technical talent, untapped, and then vice versa, help companies from this more established market expand to those regions. So for example, we just led the round for a Saudi edtech called Ayla, AI Learning Assistant, and they're already in Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan as well. So we see it as an interesting geopolitical symbiosis between markets. It's very exciting.
Actually, I was in Baku, I think, last year, and I got the same feeling that this was a new area that had been underfunded or under-recognized, maybe.
And they see the UAE as an exciting role model and blueprint to try and become the equivalent for that part of the world, the Switzerland of that part of the world.
Absolutely. Tala, so what would you consider yourself now? An angel?
Yeah.
And you have a kind of a consultancy as well.
That's right.
So as an angel, what are you excited about? And is it always MENA companies that you invest in?
So I'm quite opportunistic. Obviously, I think that I'm advantaged by having, been investing in this market the longest and by being based here. It's also a smaller market, which makes it a lot more easier to source and be found. But I've been spending an increasing amount of time in Silicon Valley, meeting with AI founders there. And so what interests me these days is, at least from an AI perspective, are sort of developer tools that really allow developers to be 100x developers. I'm interested in synthetic data. Because we're learning increasingly that LLMs need to be fed better quality data. And you'll reach, sort of a maximum with the number of parameters that you can add to a model. And so you actually need AI to create synthetic data. So you need AI to feed AI. And so those sorts of models are really interesting to me. In the Middle East, I think that there are still huge plays in fintech, especially as it relates to Sharia finance, trade finance, family finance, and credit and SME lending. I think still remain, areas of exploration. And the reason I think they're interesting is it's, you can see the gap, but when you talk to also big market players, the traditional banks, to customers, there's still unmet demand in those areas for localized products that I just don't think we can import from abroad. There's also, of course, AML compliance, which I think is very, very important.
Absolutely. Maurice, will there be any questions? Just let me check if anyone's going to put their hand up. Otherwise, we'll keep talking. On the left. Excellent. I wanted to finish with Maurice, and then I'll come straight back to you if that's okay. Your 32 million fund, Benelux, Nordics. Are you going to grow away from those territories? Have you come to MENA or here to explore those opportunities?
It depends a bit on the people that we can work with, because I know Northern Europe, Eastern Europe quite well. This region I don't know yet, but happy to collaborate with local experts. And that's, I think, the way forward for any fund to grow. You need local people that can, therefore help you set up something. And also that you can benefit both ways. Maybe help companies to grow into this region and vice versa.
Okay, great. Hello, Adam. Thank you for being brave enough.
Where was the mic? There.
I think someone's got the mic here. This lady. Yes, we'll come back to you, sir. Sorry. Get the mic very close, yes.
Hello, do you hear me?
Oh, you see, no.
Okay, so first of all, I'm Warifa, and I'm a TKS student, deeply passionate about quantum, but I came to this decision because, my aunt was putting on the VS. I was curious about what is it. So I have two questions, but for the time...
Only one question.
One question, yeah. So that's why I ask you. You want to choose one or two?
One.
One, okay. So how do you, as VCS, balance the need to evaluate hard detox with the institution and vision of founder when deciding to invest? And where do you think the magic truly lies, in the number or in the dreams?
Fantastic. Who's going to go first? Abbas is dithering.
Pointing at me?
You're the smartest.
Tala's not interested.
No, I'm very interested.
Good.
Actually, I don't think I fully understood the question. So apologies. If you can just
Rephrase? Yeah.
rephrase, yes.
It's like, how do you balance like the institution or the vision of the future? And like, do you think that the VCS depends on the numbers of data or in the dreams?
That's a great question now. Thank you.
Go for it, Abbas.
Data and dreams, Abbas. Data and dreams, baby.
Sounds like a modern day rock band
Absolutely.
name, Data and Dreams. But I think it's a great and quite philosophical question. It's ultimately comes down to both. You have to have a big vision. Essentially, as a founder, you're picking the hardest job there is. You're trying to will something into existence out of nothing. So you have to have a certain level of obsession with a problem. A lot of the time you get founders or people who want to be founders, and they sometimes glamorize the vision of being an entrepreneur. The term is like, I call it entrepreneur.
Yeah.
A lot of the time people think that, okay, I need to come up with an idea. That's not the way to build a business. Find a problem that needs to be solved, come up with a solution for it, and then try and do that. That's the only way you'll build something that adds value to the market, unless you're trying to just build a copycat or something like that. But so being passionate about the problem you're solving, so that's where the dream comes in, and it's important. But then when you want to scale and raise money particularly from venture capital investors, traction, data, all of that is important. Market sizing, that's important. But again, there's often a misconception that the amount of money you raise is some kind of success metric. Increasingly with press releases and everything, people think, I raised more money, I sold more of my company, so that means I'm a better startup. It's not the case. And for a lot of companies, you might not be ready for VC funding, or it's not the only funding route. Crowdfunding, angel investments, etc. They're different paths for different businesses. Not everyone is ready to take that VC backed hockey stick growth journey.
Absolutely.
So it's really about your, what type of business you're looking to build. If you want to build an SME, if you want to build a venture backable company, etc.
Tala, data or dreams?
If I had to pick one, I would definitely go with dreams. I think you really need to have a strong vision for the future. Of course, you need to be able to execute on that idea, and I think that's actually, in some cases, most cases, harder to do, right? Everyone comes up with great ideas, but you really, really need to have, that conviction and see the world in a different way than other people. And I think that's what makes a great entrepreneur. And it's not just the dreams; it's really different personality characteristics. Also, I'm biased. I invest in early stage companies, so of course that's going to matter more in an environment where you have less data. If I was a private equity investor, then my orientation would obviously be very different. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I will definitely write an article called Data or Dreams. So you've had an impact on me and you've inspired me. Thank you very much. Gentleman over there, I think probably will have to be the last question.
Last question? That's a lot of pressure. Okay.
Who are you?
My name is Ahmed. I'm a student at Khalifa University. It's not nothing to be. But my question is, like, the population of the UAE is about 10 million. Is it actually a big enough population to have a mature VC scene and a startup scene to have world leaders come out of the region, and or is it just like does immigration help? How does it work out exactly?
Maurice, it's got to be you.
I think if you earlier it was compared with Northern Europe, and I would say the Baltics is maybe an interesting comparison. If you look at the Baltics, it's 7 million people in total, and they still manage to build an ecosystem around ambitious people who could build companies. Of course, the dynamics are way different over there, but it needs to start with something, and it needs to start with examples. I think that's important. What the region needs is some local rock stars that create a company, build it, get it to a next level, and therefore inspire younger people to also go that path. But not everybody needs to become an entrepreneur. That's also the thing. You need the right balance in how many entrepreneurs can you have as an economy or as a region. And that will, over time, will evolve itself, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
If I can just very quickly also maybe chime into that. I think that, population size matters, but depending on the sectors, other things might matter too. So if you look at biotech, for example, right, the UAE has the most diverse set of sample populations. So when you think about the future of therapeutics and you need to run clinical trials and you need people who, have a certain disease or come from a certain place, you can find them here. And so sometimes diversity actually brings value. The second thing I'll say is, I believe this vintage is the AI vintage. And unlike the software era, you actually do need to put down CapEx. And CapEx may not actually give you much return, right, at least in the short term, but requires, it takes, to build a data center, running on Blackwell GPUs, potentially like $5 to $10 billion, right? And so the region has governments that want to do that, right? In the US, you rely on the likes of OpenAI and Microsoft and Amazon to build out those data centers. And so in that way, I think we're also advantaged in that we have really visionary leaders. So sometimes it's not just about market size.
Absolutely.
But it's also about other factors.
Thank you, Tala. Thank you for your questions, sir. I can see you there. I think that's it. I'm sorry about the English lessons. Maybe I taught you something. You've certainly taught me something. Could I have a huge round of applause to my panel, please? Thank you. You can now rest your backs and
Thanks.
go and do something. Thank you.